You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button. Something that we're all going to have to get used to in college football now are injury reports. And while we're 6 weeks into the season, going on week 7, this is something that isn't totally new. I mean, we've done this now for a month and a half, but until it becomes relevant, we kind of just ignore it. And this week, it's fair to say the injury report for LSU Ole Miss is quite relevant. We are following and will continue to follow the Ole Miss injuries. One giant name in particular that we've pointed out from the beginning and will continue to do so, and that is wide receiver Trey Harris. We've talked about him. He's their best guy, 52 catches on the season through 6 games, and he left with a pretty gnarly ankle injury against South Carolina. He's officially listed as questionable. So are Princely Umanmielen, Lewis Moore, J.J. Pegues, the big defensive tackle. Several players are doubtful, including offensive lineman Jeremy James, Michael Pettis, another offensive lineman, Reese McIntyre, offensive lineman are listed as probable, but they have been banged up. And it underscores the thing that we've talked about here since the summer, which is not just who you play, but when and where you play them, and why I liked LSU in this spot because of where it fell on the schedule. Ole Miss, 7 consecutive week. This will be their 7th consecutive game. 3 consecutive SEC games, back-to-back road conference games, and they are a banged-up team. Now, LSU is coming off the bye. And by the looks of LSU's injury report, while not nearly as lengthy as Ole Miss's, it is significant. There's players we knew that are out, right? Like Harold Perkins and John Emery, Jacobian Guillory, who suffered season-ending injuries, Princeton Malbrew, season-ending injury. Those are no surprise. Kyle Parker is out for this game. Chris Hilton, C.J. Daniels, all listed as questionable for this game. So if we look at how last year played out, and again, I don't think this game is going to play out like it did a year ago. Not even close to 55, 49, 1,400 yards of offense. That's not what I'm saying. But the score fest, the offensive game, I think this is going to be more defensive. I'm not telling you it's going to be a defensive game. I'm not telling you it's going to be 12-8. What I'm telling you is it's going to be more defensive than it was certainly a year ago. I think this is going to be more like the opener against Southern Cal, where you had a game tied at 20 until 8 seconds to go, and neither team got to 30. So offense is going to be critical when you have the opportunity to score, and LSU could be down. Remember, Kyle Parker out for this game is the guy who replaced Chris Hilton at the beginning of the season with Hilton's injury. Hilton is still not back, listed officially as questionable, so not probable, questionable. And C.J. Daniels with the knee injury, also questionable. Now, you haven't had Hilton at all this year, but Daniels has 20 receptions through 5 games. We've talked about him being sort of a security blanket of sorts for Garrett Nussmeier. So, yes, I think that is significant. Now, your leading receivers on the team are Aaron Anderson and Kyron Lacey, and they're both back. Obviously, Mason Taylor is a fantastic pass catcher.
Mason Taylor!
You've got Xavion Thomas and your running backs who you can be creative with, and then you never know who might step up. But I think you have enough. What you certainly have lost here or are threatening is depth. So if this does become an offensive game, losing anybody on the offensive side stings. But I would say even more significant on this injury report is linebacker West Weeks is doubtful for this game. And I'm not here to hype up West Weeks as a game-changer, All-American type player. Now, Blake Baker did say in the offseason that he felt like West Weeks was a starter and nobody was talking about him, and they should have been talking more about West Weeks. And when he's gotten his opportunities, he's been good for LSU. The problem is he had a foot injury. He missed a couple of games. He tried to go against South Alabama, played 1 series, and he played 4 snaps, took himself out of the game. So think about it now. With Harold Perkins done for the year, West Weeks doubtful for this game, you're down to 2 linebackers. You are down to Whit Weeks and Greg Penn. Now, Whit Weeks is leading your team in tackles, and I would argue is your best defensive player right now. And Greg Penn is number 18, and he's played a ton of football during his 4 years in Baton Rouge. So you've got two really good linebackers. The problem is what's next. Because if you're not going to have West Weeks, if anything happens, God forbid, to Whit or to Greg Penn, your next two guys in are two true freshmen, in Xavier Atkins and Devon Keys. And Brian Kelly on Monday, and this is before we even knew about West Weeks' injury situation, Brian Kelly on Monday really highlighted the need for development at linebacker.
The fact of the matter is we have to play some young players, and Keys, Atkins, that's the reality that we're in, and I'm okay with that. And these guys have done a really nice job of coming on. That next form of development is at the linebacker position. And they're getting, I think, more and more comfortable with what we're doing and what Blake is teaching. And so it's likely that you're going to see more of them as the season unfolds.
I think he was pretty clearly telling you there what they were looking at. And you're going to see more of them. Now, remember, and I don't think Brian Kelly is contradicting himself. I think the comments are just changing based on the reality he's facing. Going into the open date, Brian Kelly said, look, we're not going to keep rolling guys in. We're going to use that open date to identify who our guys are, and we're going to narrow down our rotations and go with the guys we trust. I'm paraphrasing, but that was his comments. Now he's telling you you're going to see more and more of these linebackers. Well, the reason is how thin you are. Like, it is unrealistic to think that Whit Weeks and Greg Penn are going to go play every defensive snap for you the rest of the way. So you are going to need those two young guys, to step up, because even if when you do get West Weeks back, you're still going to be looking at a situation where you got to have more than three. And I don't think you're looking at a situation where Major Burns is playing linebacker. Now, if there is one benefit, and if there is one true benefit to playing Ole Miss, while Ole Miss can run the football, this is an Ole Miss team that is going to spread you out and go fast. So you're not going to typically they spread you out and they go fast. This is not a team that's going to try to just line up and grind clock, where you're going to have a lot of fluid rotations throughout a game. And because they're going to spread you out, your base is probably going to be a nickel, so you're going to have five defensive backs. So one of those linebackers have been coming off the field anyway. So we will see how this plays out, but that is a giant concern right now against this team. And then you think ahead to Arkansas with Taylor Green, provided he's healthy, but even if it's not Green, what they do, they'll spread you out. And even as you go down the line, Alabama with Jalen Milroe or Texas A&M, Wegman gives you a different look, obviously, than Marcel Reed does. Wegman isn't as big of a threat to run and what they do offensively. But beyond that, to Florida with Billy Napier's offense, obviously Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt will spread you out and run it and throw it. And then Oklahoma. So you're not going to see a lot of offenses that are going to necessitate that Buffalo package that Brian Kelly has talked about, where you're going to have the three true inside linebackers. So in that respect, it does benefit you. But if teams know you're thin in the middle, do they try to test you there? It's something to watch this weekend. So LSU coming off the bye, clearly, while we knew about the season-ending injuries, clearly a time where they needed that rest. And even with it, you still have some guys that are out or are questionable for this weekend against Ole Miss. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.